Welcome to the jungle, Earth's and the sun's too. Take a walk, it's too beautiful to run through. I'm your tour guide and your bodyguard, call me Jay. I studied Kung Fu, Art of War, Sun Tzu, easy like 1, 2. I really want you to get up in the rhythm with me. One brew, a joint, ooh. I like mango and tango with lime in it. Stick a rhyme in it, feeling good in 5 minutes. Anything you might witness is yours and my business. If this is a visit, just pay attention till I'm finished. See the life with us, let the light heal us. And trust me, cause the bugs just might kill us in the jungle. It's an endless abyss of concrete, broken glass, and steel, real green with greed. The streets are just tributaries to various interstate-like waterways, the banks of which are the cracked sidewalks that flourish with life on a whole new level. Vibration. It's so subtle. By the time you feel it, you know it's trouble. Trees are chopped and evenly dispersed amongst the natives for the purpose of self-maintenance. Some of us find shelter here and grow too comfortable to leave. We make medicine for brave hearts with the rite of passage, like puff puff pass it, only papyrus, no plastic. The overgrowth is drastic. Indigenous tribes are damn near extinct. Think jungle fever, dark and light, bend, blending into shadows, quickly cooling the pursuit of our roots. The mating call is hidden proof. Languages hang long and loose from family tree branches, fed by fantasies, captured and capped off with shots of Patron, clapped off till I got you alone, off with that cloth. Nothing that soft should be so wrong. The jungle. There's an order to it all. From its burros and elephants to its guerrilla warfare politics. How volatile a mix of ecosystems, bumping victims, pumping fists and jumping block to block, mocking the back and forth rocking of chameleons. Really, son, don't come here unless you're from here. See, I left the jungle, but it never left me. And when none of the other lands would accept me, this place blessed me with sanctuary. And now, I find peace in the pulse of the hustle. And if there's beef, my peeps on a double follow my war cry. Brat, war paint, tattered and scarred with reminders of the price of life here. Survive your first 25 here, and you're suddenly humbled by the madness and majesty, the sadness and tragedy of such a breakneck economical tropical ecstasy. Baby, walk the path of light, keep tight like right next to me, and together we will learn to rise above the anarchy and the insanity beneath the canopy of a beautiful place that we call home. It's entitled Heart. Heart. By far one of my favorite words. Perhaps fourth behind dope, poet, and love. A profane 5 letters. Just the right amount of vowels wrapped in consonants squeezed into a single syllable diphthong, maybe mono. My southern twang sings it as a single sound, heart. A 1-inch punch trigger break, beautiful suppressed shot that fires quickly, escalating from whisper to wail, stopping short with meaning. Its ancient origin is in the diaphragm. Exhale. For when you tell the tale of the timekeeper, you must pace yourself, lest the tiny spaces between life and death clog and crowd, making it hard to bleed. Blood clots in the brain clap thunder, lightning strikes in life's most familiar streaks across the sky, estranged. Scorched clouds of memory become perfect places to dance. The heart dances. Isang paru-paro. La mariposa. My Lola visits me as a hummingbird. With instructions she concocted, caring for my grandfather post-op quadruple bypass. I laugh as she calls him utu-utu. She says the heart is strong when you are young, anak. And I agree that it is also full of air and far more likely to implode. I have learned that as a people, we birth carbon copies of our hearts and call them children. Handmade papier-mâché origami godlings, we shape them in our image and fill them with flowers and sage I pray she creates her own cracks to fix forever. For when we die, their hearts will become reanimated canopic jars, jewel-encrusted creatures to be handled with care. To be open is to be shattered. Our hearts are fractured, compound like words, like mine started out as just he, until she gave me art, completing the puzzle. A perpetual struggle protecting this dark crystal matrix arc reactor behind our solar plexus. Nothing is better medicine than to listen to it. Hear this. The heart is where the hurt heads when it's ready to receive healing. Be still my beating.
This is from my book, How Therapists Dance. And the poem, it's a tongue-in-cheek poem entitled, Enlightenment is a Bitch. At first, it isn't so bad. A taste of ecstasy, the world covered in honey. Even snails scrawl the names of Buddhas with their silvery trails. But then, too much, pears become unbearable. Wet white flesh so tender one could perish contemplating the first taste. Meditation becomes oddly redundant. Attention now like water absorbed in tree root, plumbing, even fire hydrants with their red, stubby arms become mandalas. And worse, the police siren revving its wail behind my slow-moving car sounds like a mantra. Even my wife's complaints about me finally sound true. I just bow, kiss her slender hands, carry the garbage outside. But damn, the moon! My father's lesson. True story, when I was a kid. I picture him standing in the church superintendent's office, the grim man threatening to fire my father from his pastorship in the small town of Live Oak if he continued to attend the interdenominational prayer group that spoke in tongues. With 2 small children and a third on the way, my father must have had balls to look that man straight in the eye and tell him to go to hell, that he'd rather resign than resist his own heart. So he gathered my pregnant mother, my brother, and me, put us all in the car, and headed south, not knowing where to go, with no job, no home, and only a few dollars in his pocket. Somewhere along the Pacific Coast Highway, he woke in a cheap motel at 4 a.m. and heard a small voice say, "Go east." And so he obeyed, eventually pulling into the beaten town of Turlock in the dusty San Joaquin Valley, where he went to see an old Navy buddy named Carl and said, "I need a job and a house." Carl said he'd hook him up with a school superintendent the next morning because they were hiring teachers, and my father walked outside to see Carl's neighbors loading furniture into a truck and asked, "Is this house for rent?" And the landlady said, "Why, yes it is. These tenants are moving out." And just like that, I had my first lesson as a young boy that sometimes all you've got is balls and faith, that a voice will speak to you in the dark of morning with your 1 cup of coffee, your single tank of gas, and say, "Go east," and that you follow. Next poem is entitled Amateur Night. As I got older, moved to Santa Cruz, there was a great bar down the street called a Dragon Moon. Amateur Night. Yes, I was a male stripper for 1 night. Well, 3. It started at the Dragon Moon, a seedy bar down the street from my house where straight, gay, and lesbian could groove together to Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson. I was in college, an ex-Jesus freak, my girlfriend accommodating my dance fetish a couple nights a week because she thought I needed to loosen up a bit. But one evening, I drank beer with a blonde Bengali surfer who stripped at another club, liked how I moved, said I should compete in the amateur night contest. What better way, I thought, to strip the remnants of my evangelical fear of the body, escape St. Paul with his distaste of the flesh. Jesus, though, was Hebrew, not yet made ethereal. I imagined him loving his body, the incarnation of it all. Carpenter's hands and shoulders, firm hips, the navel floating above his groin like a gibbous moon. The same moon I gyrated in the bar's night. To be a man seen in this way was like a resurrection of something crucified, buried. So when I slid across the neon disco stage like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever, slipped out of my jeans and pretended to be a young messiah, women stuffing dollars in my embarrassing briefs, my girlfriend winking and feigning a swoon, I knew my body had been saved, that I was finally born again.
It's not that I've lost sight of who I am. It's just that I've never realized I don't know who I am. And I think, how could anybody know who they are? I feel it must be possible because I see so many madly awake faces staring into me, seemingly trying to convey something that I cannot consciously comprehend. And I think, how could I understand? I, a man, a loose definition of misunderstood emotion. Simply saying that I am a man sounds like a subtle complaint because that's exactly what it is. I, a mother, fucking man, am subtly wishing to know simplicity's secrets. My life is as disjointed as the word tracheotomy. Making blood cells out of abused lungs and run-on sentences. Do you see me? Because I don't. I just feel you seeing me, then pretend person enough for you to look away, which you never do, because you is always me and I keeps resisting the dualities inside this pageless poem. The body is the ghost that whispers to the house in the dead of dark. The mind is the memory that can't stop listening. The name is the illusion that makes sense seem suffocating. It's not that I don't know who I am. It's just that I have no idea what I am, other than whatever the memory has heard of itself. I keep getting lost trying to define words that don't exist, ignoring entire dictionaries in the foolish name of originality. The man cannot help but mimic the mayhem that defines him, tunnel vision and viscous existential greed. How does a man stop being a man when that is all he's ever called? How does a complaint become an honest expression of one's emotional state? How does language stop learning itself? I've discovered recently how comfortable I am with feeling unhappy, how I do not know how to let myself feel happy. I tell myself that centering my own wellness is a synonym for selfishness. In these moments, I hear the words, "because you are a man," echo in the endless hallways in my head, the only dream that I always remember, the nightmare that keeps telling me that I don't have nightmares. It is not my voice that screams this. It is the voice of my kidnapped vision, discovering what the word trauma tastes like, laughing at the moment because he was never taught how to cry. He is good at convincing water that he floats, but stone will always sink, no matter how weightless it looks when it is being thrown through the air. Things exist as we have defined them to be, but how does a planet begin to name itself? Does asking that question sound like a complaint? Does writing this poem make me any less of a man? Is it foolish to want that to be true, to feel like only the mother exists because the father has forgotten its function? My friend never stops asking me, "What are you running from?" My response always changes, but the answer stays the same. Being called a man, simply, without subtlety or apology. I understand that one must stop being a man before the world will stop calling him a man. I understand that understanding has nothing to do with words. I understand that I will never understand, at least not out loud, at least not when you was watching me. I understand now will soon be then, and he will soon be gone, and the memory will learn how to respect the house, and the house will accept the mind that never learned how to look beyond the mirror. May the man inside of the moon make the waves in his eyes move over the reflection of the sky that he's stuck staring at. May his vision become light until all that I is dissolves organically into the ocean. I think his writing style is called a quadrupuntal. It's where you write one poem, another poem, sandwich them together to make a third poem. This is me in the mirror. 1. My closest friends comfort me within mirrors. I see a different pair of pupils looking back at me every time. Although my cornea has always been a complex shade of tree bark, I choke on my imaginations sometimes. I think until I'm suffocated by my own craving to kill the ghost that tries to trap my image. The contradiction of my breath breaks every silence into me and the mirror, lost. 2. I see from the wall, switching between souls every second, ancestors and fallen loved ones laughing. Death observes life through me. I have no language but my skin. Nothing understands my body. My silence speaks to me always. God exists in its own nothing, and all things are the same thing. Witnesses locked inside this loss for language. 3. I see my closest friends watch from the wall, comfort me within mirrors, switching between souls. Every second I see a different pair of pupils looking back at me, ancestors and fallen loved ones laughing every time. Death observes life through me, although I have no language but my cornea. My skin has always been a complex shade of nothing. Tree bark understands my body. I choke on my silence. My imagination sometimes speaks to me. I always think God exists until I'm suffocated by my own craving to kill the ghost that tries to trap my image in its own. The contradiction of nothing and my breath breaks every silence into all things. Me and the mirror are the same thing. Witnesses locked, lost inside this loss for language.
On the days I feel I am not enough, I will beat my hand into the comb hidden inside my chest, my finger dripping with honey. I am rich with sweetness. On the days I feel I am not enough, I will peacock into the wrinkles of my mind, stretch out my feathers, dance with pearlescent plumage. I am full of imagination. On the days I feel I am not enough, I will cocoon myself with compassion, spin silky threads of tenderness, snug myself against the compassion of friends. I am deserving of care. On the days I feel I am not enough, I will elephant out my lungs, shout out the lost memories and pain that just won't seem to leave me. Exhale all of that frustration and grief. Inhale this present moment. I am full of life. On the days I feel I am not enough, I will merman into my spirit. Keep on diving into who I am. My body aching to surface back up, but I keep on diving towards who I am. I am plenty of brave. On the days I feel I am not enough, I will stare into that mirror until it is no longer covered with lies. I am enough. The artist not forgotten. I learned not to trust spaces that love your art more than you, as if they can talk about your craft with the absence of you, minus the narrative of you. Though they can only see your work, are blind to see you, have no clue of you, nor have any desire to understand you. To these consumers, They are ready to devour your composition, spit out your bones that you framed your work with. Body spray the stench you put into your pieces as if to call your odor foul, as if they want to remain ignorant of your grime. They will call your work beautiful. They will call you thug, nuisance, erratic, affirm the heck out of your creations, ready to adopt it off your hands, yet eject you out of your own story. Wipe themselves clean of you, though they are a purification, though they are a flawless wonder, though they can simply own your art. This is some garbage. These spaces are not about you. These are not your folks. These are not your people. This is not the culture your art is for. We must be curators of the people, protectors and sustainers of the community. Art is the imagination of the people. The people are carriers of art, spreading culture into the marrows. With colors we dare paint to portray our heart, shadows and light that photograph our complexities, ballads that speak of a freedom we dare to dream to manifest. I learn to love spaces who trust you as much as they appreciate your art. They look at you as though you are sacred. Display your work knowing there is a person who created this. They cannot fathom the removal of you. When in discussion of your creation, feel the hue of pain you illustrated subtly. Offer to hug you, to heal you, to be in pain with you. Smile at the delicate joy you narrated amongst the chaos. Contagiously reciprocate that smile back at you. As much as they are committed to your work, look out for your well-being as much as the progression of your technique will process and ride with you. Art by the people, for the people. People for the artists, for the arts. Love for love. Love for love.
To my children's, I call you Hun, for honey, honeybee, be my honey. After each flower, fly home, wrapped in football, geometry, and various shades of skin, caramel, chocolate, vanilla, hazelnut. Fly home with a deep cinnamon tan, though I will always know there's a vanilla pudding belly under that shirt. My children's, la gran mestizaje de las Americas. But be more than careful. The world expects you to get in trouble. A brick smashed window, a chocolate bar slid into a pocket, copying answers on that test. Don't do it. The big there, the big them, whiteness, power, societal structures of post-racial America where they are blinded by a snowstorm of reasons why not in my neighborhood. I'll wait for you to fail. It's expected for you to kick Romeo and Juliet across the parking lot. No one will notice. As you stare out the window when the teacher annotates the connections between metaphors and reality. These are passing grades. A girl is a biatch with gold grills glisten, celebrity status. Don't do it. You're expected to end up in jail, divorced, homeless, unemployed, raging, and violent, not understanding why. You had to read Malcolm X to discover your own vitality. Jesus isn't a white man with blue eyes. You're not supposed to know that covered wagons were stealth bombers setting off genocide, that before corporations rolled over family farms, those families removed Cherokee, Shawnee, the mothers, the fathers, the children, my children, our children. The childrens of brown cinnamon warm spice have danced on shotgun shells, Bowie knives, and shards of glass. You are supposed to drop out of high school and never go to college, never read Frederick Douglass or Eduardo Galeano, Don't take that sociology class. History is boring. God is dead. Religion an opiate. Get a job. Go to work. Don't you want that nice black muscle car with silver gray lining and midnight rims? Don't do it. Graduate. Go to college. My children's. The Godhead grows from palm fronds, deep night stars, waves of heat and humidity wrapped around the equator. We are all divine. My children's. You have a responsibility to rise above inundating waves of indifference and invisibility. Stand up, be seen, listen to your own voice. You are right. The world is not fair. You are not privileged, but you are strong. Raise your hand, open a book, rise. Discover you are elemental, a comet raised from stardust. Shoot through nighttime sky, spiral through the universe. After the 1979 Revolución Nicaragüense, my parents' history was erased. Their Nicaragua gone forever. My mother believes I will be assaulted if I return to Managua. My father refuses to go with me. They wrestle memories of what was playing on the radio and a humidity that did not cease. I wonder about evenings where green parrots fly into an overbearing canopy while iguanas sit low and watch. The iguana knows how to run when shadows arise loose from bodies dormant and dead. In 1920, after Rubén Darío's death, the entire nation agreed to rename a city in his honor. His birthplace, Metapa, became Ciudad Darío, poetry being the national pastime. But then Somoza, armed men in jeeps, ghost shadows dancing on skin, all too often. As Nicaragua's poetic sweetheart, Darío conjured mermaids diving deep in Lake Managua and swans sailing slowly on the ponds of a golden palace. He set a lyrical backdrop for a land where my mother's hair was tied up in ribbons as she skipped past a garden where a peacock spread royal blue and a rose was cut only to droop in a vase by the window. Sometimes imaginative sonnets allow us to escape. Bone-skinned children, bloated seagulls, cathedrals where incense burned shame. As the revolutionary hurricane swept coffee plantations clean, green humidity clung at right angles on reptilian scales, while Darío's mermaids choked in the fresh air.
I'm beating up the street tonight. I slept